The snow drifted down in soft, patient spirals, each flake glowing faintly beneath the golden Christmas lights, the kind of snow that looks magical from a distance but feels sharp and unforgiving when it touches bare skin. And on the edge of Evergreen Square's holiday market, Clara Bennett sat quietly in her wheelchair, her gloved fingers trembling not only from the cold but from the weight of everything she was trying so hard to hold together, as laughter echoed around her like a language she no longer spoke, families posing beneath glowing arches, couples leaning into one another with warm drinks and easy smiles, children darting past with red cheeks and careless joy, while Clara watched it all as if from behind glass, close enough to see the warmth but unable to step inside it, because tonight she had allowed herself to hope, and that, somehow, made the disappointment sharper. She had believed, just a little, that Christmas magic might soften the edges of her life, that the universe might offer her one gentle moment to carry through the winter, but instead she had been reminded of a truth she knew too well, that sometimes the brightest lights only make the shadows clearer. Her blind date had arrived on time, smiled as he approached, and then his eyes dropped to the chair and everything changed in a single breath, a hesitation too long, a smile stretched thin with discomfort, a quiet excuse, and then he disappeared into the glowing crowd, leaving Clara sitting there with rejection ringing louder than any carol. And it wasn't anything she said or did, it was simply the chair. As the cold air burned her lungs and tears blurred the lights into streaks of gold, she felt smaller than she ever had in her 24 years, smaller than the snow melting on her coat, smaller than the silence he left behind. And before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and real stories that remind us what humanity can look like at its best, please like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps these heartfelt stories reach people who truly need them, and this is True Stories by M, a place where compassion still matters. Clara hadn't always felt this fragile. There was a time she ran through markets like this on her own 2 feet, laughing with friends, her chestnut hair bouncing freely behind her, before the accident, before the slick road and screaming tires, before the endless hospital nights where machines breathed when she struggled to. The doctors called her survival a miracle, but they never explained how heavy that word could feel when your legs never move again and your spine never heals the way they prayed it would. And every holiday since seemed to highlight what she'd lost instead of what she'd survived. Tonight had been a risk, a quiet act of courage, a blind date arranged by a well-meaning friend who promised kindness and patience, and Clara had wanted to believe it. She wore her warm burgundy sweater, curled her hair carefully, brushed on lipstick she hadn't touched in years, because she wanted to feel beautiful, wanted to feel chosen. But now she sat alone beneath thousands of lights, feeling invisible, teenagers rushing past without noticing her, couples stepping around her chair like it was an inconvenience, and she considered going home, but the thought of her quiet apartment felt heavier than the cold. So she wheeled herself toward the massive Christmas tree at the center of the square where people were taking photos they'd treasure long after winter passed. And she stopped nearby watching them, wishing she had someone who saw her instead of her limitations, and that was when she felt it, a gentle tug on her sleeve, light and careful, and she looked down into the wide blue eyes of a little girl with soft curls peeking from a knitted hat, no older than 6, wearing a lavender coat and clutching a half-unwrapped candy cane. And before Clara could speak, the girl smiled shyly and placed her small hand on Clara's knee as if grounding them both. Then came the words that changed everything. "Can I hug you?" A question so pure it stole Clara's breath. No fear, no pity, just kindness freely offered, and she nodded because she couldn't trust her voice, and the child stepped forward and hugged her with complete sincerity, arms tight, heart open, and something warm cracked open inside Clara's chest, like the first sunrise after a long winter. Moments later a man hurried over, snow dusting his dark hair, worry softening into relief as he introduced himself as Ethan Carter, the girl's father, apologizing for her sudden escape. But when he saw Clara's tearful smile and his daughter's peaceful expression, his voice gentled, explaining that Maya believed hugs fixed sadness, and Clara laughed shakily, wiping her eyes, telling him she might be right. And Ethan didn't rush the moment or glance uncomfortably at the chair. He stayed, listened, really listened, as Clara shared pieces of her evening, the rejection, the loneliness she carried so quietly, and he shared his own story too, loss, grief, raising Maya alone since his wife passed, how holidays had become complicated since then, and together they wandered through the market unhurried, Ethan walking beside her chair without ever making her feel like she was slowing him down. Maya holding Clara's hand and pointing out decorations, asking questions, making her laugh, sharing hot chocolate that warmed places the cold couldn't reach, until they stood before a softly glowing nativity display in a quiet corner of the park, lanterns flickering gently. And Clara realized something had shifted inside her. She had arrived feeling invisible and she was leaving feeling seen, truly seen. Weeks later Ethan reached out, then weeks turned into months, messages into visits, and Clara found herself included in small moments that slowly rebuilt her belief in connection. Ethan respected her independence, admired her strength, never once treating her as fragile. And when he looked at her, he didn't see a broken girl. He saw a woman shaped by survival, and slowly Clara began to see herself that way too, until one summer evening she watched fireworks beside Maya, laughter in her chest, realizing that one small hug had reopened her life, and by the next Christmas Clara was no longer alone beneath the lights, decorating a tree with Ethan and Maya, a snowflake ornament hanging between them as a reminder of the night kindness found her first. Because sometimes healing doesn't arrive loudly or perfectly, sometimes it comes quietly, in the arms of a child who simply asks, "Can I hug you?" and chooses to see the person, not the pain.